So this question comes from the Squirrel Ninja, who says, what wrestling style do you think works best for competing in MMA? Well, that's a pretty simple one. The style where the wrestler goes and spars, does MMA sparring with MMA fighters, and does that consistently until they get good at that very specific skill set of wrestling against MMA fighters. That's the style of wrestling that works best. And you'll notice it looks quite a bit different than folk style or freestyle or catch as catch can or Greco-Roman. There is, of course, crossover between all those things, and those are definitely worth studying. And we can look at statistics and say, yeah, well, statistically speaking, more Greco-Roman guys have experienced success in the UFC, so maybe we should do that. And maybe we should ask a few more questions. What did those guys do that the other guys didn't? Well, they're the guys who showed up. They're the guys who sparred with the MMA fighters. They're the guys who did their homework and put in the time to understand what the sport of MMA actually is. They didn't just attend a wrestling for MMA class. Because what is wrestling for MMA, or boxing for MMA, or jiu-jitsu for MMA? That's code for watered down, crappy version of whatever that thing is we're talking about. MMA is its own unique sport. And the setups, the strategies, etc., are unique to the sport of MMA. So it's important that we do MMA sparring. We can do that safe. We can do that controlled, just like you spar safe and controlled in every other combat sport. Right? It's not difficult to do, but you have to be consistent. If you're a BJJ athlete, start your rolls from standing, even if you are a guard puller. Getting a fight to the floor on your own terms doesn't happen without dedicated practice. Cross-train in different grappling styles, freestyle, folk style, Greco-Roman, catch wrestling, Judo, BJJ, Shuaijiao, Sumo, whatever you can think of. Give yourself limitations when you drill and spar. Find the balance between being the best athlete you can and the best technician. Be the guy who has the potential to outperform your opponent with power, strength, and speed. But most of the time you won't need to, because your understanding of position, timing, leverage, structure, and framing will do the job. Drill hybrid striking grappling sports like Sanda and Muay Thai that help you develop quick wrestling and clinch fighting skills respectively against competent strikers. Occasionally supplement with jacketed styles like Judo, Sambo, Shuaijiao, and BJJ for the contrast. For contrast, my friends, is a powerful teacher. Spar without a shirt sometimes, when you get really hot and sweaty. Why? MMA fights are shirtless and incredibly slippery compared to grappling, even in a rash guard. It's not the same thing. The stage lights in MMA arenas can get incredibly hot, really fast, and make fighters start sweating bullets before the first round even begins. If you have never had the experience of skin-on-skin grappling before your first MMA fight, you will be shocked at the difference. That's not the right time to be shocked. Different techniques and strategies work better against different people. You can actually force a square peg into a round hole. But why not just use a round peg if you have one? And if you don't, develop one in the gym, figuratively speaking. Do not be afraid of adding striking to your grappling game. Just go light. Do it right, go light. The whole sport of MMA is contingent upon this skill set. Your setups for clinching and takedowns will be based entirely on timing and distancing correctly relative to strikes, your own and your opponent's. It's different than the sport of wrestling, the sport of BJJ, and the other grappling sports devoid of strikes. Do sparring drills where one fighter can only strike, while the other can only grapple. Do drills like this, mix it up. Do drills where you have several handicaps and your opponent has none. Use the cage. This is such a big deal. Train up against the cage. The majority of takedowns and clinch fighting in MMA happen against the cage. It is literally the sport of cage fighting. If your entire wrestling experience is on the open mat, you are ill prepared for a cage fight. Use a ton of control so you and your training partners don't get injured. Fewer injuries means more training time. More training time means more experience. More experience means superior grappling skills. Wrestle with people who have a wide variety of skill sets. Less skilled wrestlers are often your greatest asset, since training with them will allow you to hone and perfect your skills by getting massive numbers of live reps that you would never get working with a superior wrestler. Sparring with less skilled fighters can allow you to try new techniques and develop them to usable levels. At the same time, challenge yourself by working with as many evenly matched and technically superior training partners as you can find. There is no shame in losing around in the gym against someone who knows more than you do. That's going to be the kick in the pants you may need to move past being the big fish in the small pond that you have been comfortable with for far too long. In the grappling arts, we may take each other down every day, but by doing so, we lift each other up to the next level. What is the best wrestling for MMA? It's the wrestling that you're willing and able to do. What's the best step to take next so you can improve? That's the one you're willing to take. Stop focusing on what you can't do and only focus on what you can. I have heard every excuse under the sun to suck at wrestling. Takedowns are too dangerous. We don't have enough space in our gym. I didn't wrestle in high school, so it's too late for me. I'm too old now. There are no wrestling clubs or coaches in my area. Look, if injuries are your biggest concern, like every other sparring skill set, use control. Slow down. Don't slam your training partners. Use spatial awareness so you don't crash into other people on the mat. Practice all kinds of tumbling every single day, so knowing how to fall safely is so deeply ingrained in your muscle memory that you couldn't do it wrong if you wanted to. And do regular strength and conditioning. It's not just so you can outwork your opponent. Being physically strong makes you more resilient to potential injuries, and being physically fit makes you recover faster from the wear and tear of regular training. So you think you don't have enough mat space in your gym to train takedowns? That's not a liability, that's an opportunity. An opportunity to develop a high level of spatial awareness, conscientiousness, and next-level control. If you have the strength and control to gently and safely put a man on his back against his will in a room full of obstacles, you absolutely have what it takes to dominate a fighter on a wide open space with nothing else in your way. So you didn't wrestle in high school or college, and now you're kicking yourself because you think it's too late to learn. No, it's not. The first lesson you need to learn about wrestling is stop throwing yourself a little pity party about missed opportunities. Suck it up, Buttercup, and get out there and train. I don't care what age you are. If you are an able-bodied human being and have the willingness to learn, you can learn. Who cares if the Division I champions are better than you? You can learn. But you don't have a wrestling club or a wrestling coach in your town. Well, I know for a fact you have YouTube. You have access to my coaching, my videos, and thousands of others from some of the greatest minds in grappling in modern history at your fingertips anytime you want. Even dumb animals wrestle, dogs, lizards, kangaroos, you name it. And they did not have a free library of instructional videos from Dan Gable, Kerry Colott, Mark Schultz, Kyle Sanderson, Kyle Dake, Jordan Burroughs, and so many others to study like you do. They didn't have fighters to do film studies on like George St. Pierre, Randy Couture, Cain Velasquez, Dan Henderson, and countless others. You do. Obviously, there are levels to the game. And the first one starts like this. Get out there and train. Obviously, there are levels to the game. And the first one is always this: get out there and train. I didn't wrestle as a kid. I didn't wrestle in high school, not in college. I started learning to grapple as an adult. Now, I'm not going to tell you, if I can do it, so can you. I was properly motivated. You might not be. I made it my mission to be able to coach fighters to win fights. You might not care about that. I don't know what your priorities are. Have you heard that old story? It's sometimes attributed to Socrates, sometimes to a Zen Buddhist monk or some other wise mentor. It's about a young man who wanted to be wise like the master. So the master takes him to the ocean, holds his face underwater, until the young man fights for his life so he can breathe. The old wise master says something like, "When you desire wisdom, like you desire this hair, seek me again." Now, I have mixed feelings about that story, but the kernel of truth from it that I want to leave you with is this: the reason you are motivated to learn is going to shape the way you train. If some rudimentary wrestling skills that might give you an advantage over novices are what you seek, that is what you'll get. If a skill set that works in an oddly specific arena of competition is what you want, that is what you'll get. If you go into a strength and conditioning session to deadlift, and you can't stop thinking about that bigger, stronger, heavier guy who crushes you on the mats, body and soul every day, and that pisses you off, but you're too nice and too passive-aggressive to say it to his face, so you let that frustration out on the barbell. You just might hit some all-time PRs, and then later take that newfound postural strength back to the wrestling room, and one day find that you're not the one getting squashed. If you've lost your last few fights, you could listen to all the dissenting voices of naysayers who have never done it. There is an endless supply of these guys, and they will happily tell you that you are no good. But if you're like me, you've already run those scenarios 2.5 million times over and over in your mind and in the gym to fix the problems and move onwards and upwards. The Socrates story is fun because it has one big aha moment for us to ponder, but the life of a fighter is full of many of these aha moments. Every punch in the face, every injury, every moment of fatigue, and more likely than not, every inconvenience on your way to the gym is one of those moments forcing you to ask yourself, how much do I really want this? How hungry am I? That's why I said the best wrestling for MMA is the kind you're willing to do. There's no magic style. There's no magic coach or method. There's no magic pill. There is simply what you are willing to do and what you won't. When you face your opposition, whatever form it may take, and can honestly say, "You will not outwork me. You will not outwork me. You will not outwork me," then you're ready for what comes next. So what does come next? Levels to the game, my friends. Levels to the game. Thanks for watching. Now get out there and train.